The opinions of this podcast are my own and not necessarily the opinions of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Ambassador Real Estate, any realtor associations, persons, or entities. If your property is currently listed with a real estate broker, please note that it is not our intention to solicit the offerings of other real estate brokers. Good morning, everybody. This is Blake Hunter with Hunting Home, and we have Jeff Gehring on the podcast today. He's with Mercury Builders, and I'm excited to talk to Jeff because I've gotten a lot of questions about the construction process, and Jeff is here to hopefully answer a lot of those questions. And anybody that's considered a new build, this is a great podcast to listen to. So Jeff, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about Mercury Builders and your background.
Well, thank you, Blake, for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to be on here today. As you mentioned, I'm Jeff Gehring with Mercury Builders. We're a full custom home builder, and we've been operating in the Omaha metropolitan area. Now this year's 32 years, so it's just been a delight to work in the Omaha, Council Bluffs, Bellevue area, and doing a variety of services, and then primarily focused on home building here in the last couple of decades. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So Jeff, I mean, we've talked, about a lot of the different projects that you're currently working on that you've done in the past, and you guys do everything from a spec to a custom to even some commercial build outs. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're a full licensed, they call it Class B classification for my building a license, and so I can build up to 4 stories on a commercial, and then also build homes and duplexes and whatnot. So we do focus on a lot of ground up. I've got a whole crew that we work with on the home building side. I've got my chief of operations is Keith Ewing, and he has been a home builder for decades himself, and has kind of come on with us as our chief superintendent and kind of runs that whole thing. And we've been really proud to have him. It's been able to tighten our build times to about 6 to 8 months. And so we're really excited to be serving the Omaha community with that type of home building, the process that we follow. And so we've been fortunate to be a Best of Omaha home builder multiple times. And so we really enjoy the custom home build process and building a home that really suits their needs and not the needs that we feel they need to fulfill. So yeah, it was just I think you know that, Blake, you've been in the industry for a long time, and I think what we run into are a lot of home builders, spec builders, tract builders, and so first time home builders buyers will kind of go to a place, Celebrity and D.R. Horton, but you're only getting a very simple approach. Well, we're probably more of a second time or last time home for the home buyers, people looking for their forever home, quite frankly, or at least a long term. And so we're looking to build something that suits their needs, and not a spec home that was set up for what the mass is like. We're finding some individuality now. Everybody has some individual needs today, so I think that's why we're here.
Yeah, and I mean that's most people that I talk to that are interested in building a home, their interest is in building something that's built for their needs. It's not necessarily that everything's brand new and shiny, but we want a certain layout. We want, we've lived in other homes and we've figured out what we like and what we don't like. So, for the real estate side of things, if I have a client, and let's skip even the lot process. They purchased a couple acres. They know where they want to build. What's the home building process look like? If I set up a meeting with you, what are you going to talk about?
Well, I think the first thing, as we all know, is where's the budget?
Yeah.
And I've seen, when I was early in the home building process, we'd get started and, some assumptions that where somebody's budget was, and then you were way off key later as you got involved in the plans. And so I kind of look at it like a flight. You're at 10, probably call it 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet. And so as we're looking over the whole project, where's their budget? Are they pre-approved? This is real estate 101. This is what you do every day. Blake. Same thing with a home builder. We want to make sure those funds are secured. We don't want either side to have to expend a lot of energy on a project where between the lot cost and development and doing the final build cost, that the mortgage we won't be able to close. And so that's a very important discussion. I think secondly, after that is what type of home are they going to build? Is this a ranch? Is this 2 stories? Is this a story and a half? How big does it need to be? Um, Home building 101. How many rooms do you know what
Mhm.
how many bedrooms, bathrooms, what type of kitchen? That's huge. Center island. Let's talk about that. And but overall square footage. Let's just make sure we get the square footage right. What's your great room needs? Do you need the basement finished? Does this need to be a walkout or a flat? So do you want to have your basement finished and be able to walk straight out, which would then mean you have to have a deck for your back coming out your back kitchen. So these are all things that we want to get questions for, so we know which floor plan to begin with. All of our floor plans are modifiable, but to get there, we need to know: do they want a 2 story? Do they need the ranch, or is it a story and a half? Do we put the master on the main and put some bedrooms upstairs and do a configuration with a large 20-foot ceiling? And those are kind of a classic story and a half. Obviously, how many garages, how many stall garages do you need? We're seeing a lot of I should say, desire for a man cave. And so they do that in the garage. And so, or the basement and walk out. So we're doing a lot of interesting things today that, even a she shed. I mean, you see that on the
Yeah.
commercial, but those are real things we've built, or a man shed or an office outside. And so we just need to get all the needs in place so that we know that we don't want to start designing this home, realizing we're missing a bedroom there, we're missing an office, we're missing a pantry size. And so those are all the things we want to get all that sketched out. I mean, that's really honestly the first step.
How much are you seeing, like, you meet with a client, you start talking about their build. How much are you seeing their change of what they thought they wanted from beginning to, finished product?
The real answer to that question, Blake, is have they done this before? I've got a gal who works in the industry, and one day we had it all figured out because she already did the legwork,
Okay.
all the way to somebody that they're a first time home buyer, but they're young professionals and they've got money and they're really ready to build, and so it's new to them. So I think an important thing is that because they're maybe used to apartments now, we got to see this as a house. So what do you need? And those could take, typically a couple of weeks. So they'll sit down. We'll have that first parameter question that we just discussed, whether it's a ranch, 2 story, story and a half, sizing, number of bedrooms, baths, basement, walkouts, decks, etc., garages, and then we start getting the floor plan. And from there, we're looking at sizing, and we're looking at closets. We're looking at what they need for storage. Cabinetry is big, as you know. What kind of ventilation they want? Are they cooks? Do they want gas? They want electric? So that would typically take us a couple of weeks. We'll sit them down with the draftsman if they really don't have an idea where they're at. Which I've got a couple like that. I've got one where we decide in a day, and I've got another one where they're going to sit down with the draftsman next and reconfigure the whole floor plan because they have a necessary view that's at a certain angle at the front. And so
Okay.
that's how custom we get because they got a downtown view. If this section of the house will have windows to it, so that changes where we put the
Yeah.
kitchen. So that's an unusual request, but as a custom home builder, that's how we have to be able to adapt. And so we're excited to do that for this couple, and that'll probably take 2.5, 3 weeks, and then once we sign off on the plans, then I'll put it out for final pricing, and then we'll come
Okay.
back to the final contract. And if everything looks good there, we submit for permit. Permits about 2 weeks, and then you can figure about 6 to 8 months after that. So
Yeah. Beautiful. So, what are, in your head, what are the, you mentioned hey, we're looking at a ranch, we're looking at a 2-story, maybe it's a walkout. What are some other like major cost considerations that you advise your clients? They're going to build a house. What are the main things that you're telling them to think about?
Um, aside from what we really talked about, how many vehicles do they have? How many kids do they have? So, I mean, these are things that their needs are the most important thing that come into play. Do they like to cook? Are there some hobbies in there? We got guys that like to do, they have home brewing interests, and so we got to do the basement a certain way. So,
Oh,
well, so I think,
that's a new one.
yeah. Oh, well, people have a lot of hobbies today. It's interesting. The cars, or they want to have a shop. I tell you another interesting that we're seeing a lot of is the need. Like I'm going to price out an electric car. Obviously, that's getting
Oh
to be
yeah.
huge. So I got to have the power station there in the garage, the 220. So we have to have that adapted. So what I ask from them is the list of all the needs that you have in the house. And so
Yeah.
they like to have a heated floor, and so we get all those up front, so I can start pricing that while they're working with the draftsman on the layouts and whatnot. So I don't know if that answers your question a
Yeah,
little
it
bit.
does. When I'm advising people, it's like I think a lot of people think the process is a lot simpler than it really is, and they don't think about a lot of the moving parts. I mean, even like you
Right,
mentioned, hey, I got this, I bought this lot. Well, you may have to decide what kind of house you're going to build on it and how you even lay it out based on the lay of the land.
right.
And so, it's just all the little details that go into it. And I think that's what makes custom home building so interesting.
Well, you mentioned the first scenario was that they've already identified the lot. But really, the first question is, if you didn't give me that scenario, I was prepared to answer it as, and this is really where this is a huge discussion. Like
Hmm.
you and I are having it right now. We have a gentleman interested in Council Bluffs area. We've had to
Yep.
expand our radius to 10 miles,
Yep.
and so he wants half an acre. At least love to have an acre, acre and a half, but we're also restricted by his budget.
Hmm.
So that makes it interesting. So, and that's not in fact, that represents probably 30% of our what I'm looking at for home builds right now.
Yeah.
They want more land, but unfortunately the cost of building has gone up. So in their minds, $500,000-$600,000
They
is a
should be
lot of
able.
money.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and that would have been
Yeah.
just 2.5, 3 years ago. But unfortunately, it gone up 40%. And so at least.
Yep.
And obviously the lot costs have gone up. And so typically, it's more important to find out what school district you have. Go find the type of lot if you want to walk out flat, and then configuration of the house. They're not big lots, so there's only so many couple of ways we can put that house in there. But you have the second scenario where we got this gentleman who's looking for, more like a better part of an acre. So now you do need to look at the land and see, well, where's the best place to situate the house? Which side does the garage need to go on? It's got to always go on the high side for obvious reasons. You don't want water infiltration in the garage. So those are all things you've got to look at, excuse me, when you build a home. And so, but really, the three rules obviously location, location, location. Where do they need to
Yeah.
be? And finding the right lot. So that, and then the right cost and getting in with the price. And then everything after that's what we've been talking about. So that's usually the very first discussion is finding a lot. And like you and I, we're spending more time probably finding a lot. I bet once we find a lot for them, we'll probably have the house design figured out probably within a week. So,
Yeah. Well, that's tough. It's tough. I mean, not only is the availability tough, but then finding something that's within the budget and that meets the client's expectations. That's a constant hurdle the last few years is the idea of what you should be able to buy with a certain amount of money and what you can buy with a certain amount of money is
right.
oftentimes pretty far apart.
Yep.
So somebody they're shopping builders. They don't know who they want to work with. What would you tell them they need to look for in a builder?
Well, again, we get back to price. I mean, there's a lot of builders out there that are spec builders only. If you're going to be looking at a home company, DR Horton or uh, Celebrity, you're not going to get a custom home. So if you're a first time home buyer, that's who you're going to be looking for, and they do a nice job for the most part. But if you want to sit down, if you're really honestly looking to customize your home, like we've been talking about, then you've certainly whittled those building numbers down, and so I think, or the number of home builders down. So you want to look at experience. Um, I think that's a critical part, and look into the floor plans. Are they able to accommodate? They're not most of the builders are a semi-custom. They'll say, I'm going to work with our floor plans, and we can do slight modifications to those. But if your needs are different than what those floor plans are, then that's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
So I think what we offer, of course, is full customization. We do barndominiums. Obviously we do commercial. So we've got a wide variety, um, and we've certainly done a few jumbos. $2 or $3 million homes that we're working on one in Bennington Lakes right now. So, but I think you really, at the end of the day, you know, need to see what their specialty is
Mm-hmm.
and their price range specialty, and then see if they have floor plans that fit your needs. And then I think that's your first couple of steps. And then check around. I think with us, we certainly have lots of video testimonials out there. We're fortunate to have had no complaints. We obviously Better Business Bureau is a good place to look. Look on Google, see how many stars they have. Those do matter. So
Yeah.
if you see a home builder with 2.5, 3 stars, then I would probably look elsewhere. So
Hopefully you get a two
if
and a
you're
half,
not paying
3-star
attention to
price,
social
right?
media, you're not paying attention to the customer. So, but yeah.
So Jeff, are you with Mercury, who are you working with the client directly, or is your project manager working closer with the client through a custom home build? I mean, I just keep thinking about all the things that have to take place from, the big things that we talked about, like layout and the structure in general, to picking out flooring, picking out tile, picking out countertops, all those things. How's that process look?
Well, the nice thing, what we offer as a custom home building company is that you start out initially working with myself and with Keith, who's the superintendent, and I was very versed in the building process. Of course, he'll be the one that I hand off to anyway, and he's the one that they will be dealing with day to day as the house gets built. But we do offer 10 hours of design time with an interior designer. And right now her name's Lindsay. And so you would sit down with her during once we have just worked with the draftsman. So you may also be working directly with the draftsman if you need to make drastic changes to the floor plan, or we're starting from scratch. And then it gets handed off back to me. We do the final plans and specs. Once that looks good, we sign off on it. And then I would turn them over to our interior designer, and that's where they start to do their selections.
I
The
see.
things we're talking about, the countertops, the backsplashes, the carpet, the trim, the cabinets, and they'll go to the shops and they get a chance to pick everything out. They can do the soft close. They can, put the spice racks in, which is really popular. Maybe they want the butler's cabinet. There may be some change to the plans that when they go through the cabinets, because they know that you need a butler's cabinet and a butler's kitchen that's going to be in the pantry. And so those are all things we've been seeing happen. So you get 10 hours. Generally, we get that squared away pretty easy in 10 hours. And then after that, we'll give a project plan together, and you'll be working with Keith the rest of the way. So
I like
I'm
that.
always available, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Jeff, can you mention maybe a couple projects that you're currently working on, or something that somebody can drive by and look at and know that you guys put that together?
Yeah, we've finished a handful in Garden Oaks. Uh, we've got 3 underway now in Sumter, which is probably a very popular neighborhood in Papillion. Founders Ridge. We've got another one underway there. Uh, we've got a custom that we're finishing up, I believe, also in Founders Ridge that we're probably halfway through. On our model, currently, we don't have a completely finished model. We do have a townhome that's finished down in Bellevue, so we can show off some of our finishes on. But an actual finished product, we will have one here in about a month or two. But upon demand, I can get you into a couple of our three of our floor plans really easily
Nice.
with homeowners that are happy to show. So because of the way the interest rates were, we weren't able to hold on some of those as we're starting new specs. So it doesn't always work out. We have a fully finished one. We do have these townhomes, but I will say if you go to our website, mercurybuilders.com, you'll see all of our floor plans. Uh, we used to have the pricing, but unfortunately, with all this escalation we've seen recently, we don't have that on there. But the square footage. But you also have a little link for a Matterport video, and you're going to go through every one of our floor plans. And so, in many cases, they're staged. And so, but upon appointment, we would be happy to show you most of our floor plans that are finished and staged. So,
So, here we are. We're on a real estate podcast. A lot of my podcast episodes are not necessarily directly related to real estate like this. It's a lot about small business, community, and I know that you embody all those things as well. But back to, really to the body of real estate, how, from your point, how does a real estate agent help a transaction, working with a customer from finding a lot and maybe connecting with you? I mean, in your experience, what role does the real estate agent play in that?
well, I think it's great. We can see that in our own relationship that we have, Blake, is that you understand the Council Bluffs community. And we've certainly built in Whispering Oaks in some of the areas, but I don't have that broad experience as you have, which most of the realtors will have in knowing existing homes and new neighborhoods and emerging. So with our real estate teams, we always ask them to have their eyes on where these developments are, so they can educate the home builders where we need to go buy these lots at. And so a listing agent for us is what that would serve. That purpose for that need is to kind of be forward thinking. Where's Omaha, Council Bluffs, and Bellevue building next? And so, what do those neighborhoods look like? What kind of lots should we be looking at? And that's the relationship. If you're a buyer's agent, I think they've got to understand that too, is to be able to understand what kind of lots that they're going to need and which home builder serves those needs. And so, I think in our case, though, finding a feel for which I don't have the ability. I'm not as a non-realtor. I can't really go to MLS and do a lot search as you can. And so I think you have a better feel for that too, because you're walking them through this process, whether it's an existing one. So you've seen all of these neighborhoods. So as a Council Bluffs realtor, and as one of the best ones, obviously, as I've grown to know that you are, you have a very intimate knowledge of the Council Bluffs real estate and what's the best neighborhood fit for that particular client and that home buyer. And so I don't have that as you have it. And so that's critical when I'm going to build them a house, because without that knowledge, we can't build them the best house. We can't find the best neighborhood for this gentleman that needs to find, this 3/4, half to 3/4, 1 acre lot, and where it needs to be and what his needs are. So I think it's part and parcel. It's really a yin and yang. And without a good agent like yourself, I can't do my work. So.
Yeah. I it is crazy. I mean, most people, if they're looking to build a home in a certain area, they're already pretty familiar with that area if that's where they're choosing to go. But, I've had people question and look at maybe buying maybe just on the outskirts of town where they can get a little more room to buy, and they're like, "Hey, we want to buy this, and then we want this custom home built." And, I've had the argument before with people as saying, I don't know if this is the place to build a, $800 million home.
Right.
Is it really feasible? Are you going to live here forever? Maybe cost isn't the issue, but if, hey, you're looking to build something and maybe this is a 10-year plan, because that is the case a lot of times. It may be not where you want to stick all your money. Maybe you want to find a little bit better location.
Absolutely. It's those 3 L's, the rules we talk about. If you don't get the right location, the great, it just isn't going to suit you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our job is to make sure this your living environment's the best. But if you're not in the right neighborhood, in the right school district, or in the right spatial, if you're not close enough to your job, and how you serve the community, those all have to work together.
Yeah.
And so that's the part that you get to play with them. And oftentimes, most of I would say half of our home buyers that come in are coming in from a realtor. And so, they've done a lot of the vetting. And so that helps out too.
Yeah.
We can get straight to it. Like, you can let me know in advance before I meet John and call it John Doe. And let's say that he comes, by the time he sits down, I'm already got a floor plan. I got some ideas what he's looking for. I already know how many bedrooms and baths and his needs and what he wants for a basement and how many stall garage he needs and what neighborhood and what type of lot. And so we're hit the ground running because of the legwork you've already achieved for us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's huge.
So, Jeff, before we leave, can you give a good example or maybe an experience you've had with a customer that you think really speaks to your business?
Well, we've had I guess a couple. I think we well, there's been one. I think a really interesting one is just is a lot because we are a full custom builder. They had a parcel acreage that didn't have domestic water or a city sewer system, and so we had to put in a well and a sanitary system for them. And so we have the engineers who come out and figure out the best placement for that land and how to grade it a little differently so they get a better view and ultimately put their forever home, which is a pretty large home, it was probably $1.5 million home, but in a better situation, in a better part of that lot that he wasn't otherwise thinking about, to where he could see a larger view in the Missouri River Valley. And so the way we kind of put all that together, along with Keith's help, really developed this really nice piece of land and his forever home that he's proud of today, because
Yeah.
we've done many of these and see what really works the best. So we've been excited to be a part of those. But all the way to a barnuminium, I'm doing one just on a outside of town, and it's a barnuminium, and it's just going to be a kind of combination between a commercial building and a home for him. And he's really, one of which a couple of those we've done, they've been very excited with. So I think the important thing is to get their expectation, find out what they need initially.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure we really cultivate what that is and we discern what that is. Make sure both sides understand that. If we can deliver that to them at the end, we've done a great job. And so that's
Yeah.
what we try to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly what I would be looking for if it was me. I feel like I have a little bit of a grasp on the building process just because I'm kind of around it, but I'd be looking to an expert that's done it a lot and said, "Hey, this works, this doesn't work. Please give me advice on what you've done in the past." Especially if it's my forever home, and it's all the little details, just like you mentioned.
Yeah, it really is. I think that's what kind of sets us apart, is the most important tool that we have isn't necessarily on our tool belt. What's attached to our heads, our ears, and really understanding what it is that your home buyer that you bring to us, Blake, would like to have in their home and how they'd like to have it delivered and at what price. And so if we can achieve all that for them, as we've been fortunate to do for so many homeowners, we're very proud of that. So,
Awesome. Well,
yeah,
thanks for coming on today, Jeff. You're easy to find. Mercury
thank
Builders,
you.
look them up online. You have any questions for Jeff and want to get a hold of me, I can certainly get you connected.
Really appreciate the time. Hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend. And again, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
You bet, Jeff. We'll talk soon.
Take care.